So, Dark Sector, what do you guys think of Gears of War 1.5? Is that accurate?
Minus co-op with like an amped up single player storyline and like Glaive, I guess. Seeing this game in previews, it didn't inspire me to get excited about it the way that I was excited about a game like Gears of War. But I could feel the excitement building from every person that had gone to play it and come back to talk about it. They were like, "Oh, it's better than you think it is." Like,
as they got hands-on, that's when they became believers.
I don't think it's a spoiler to say too much that early in the game your character gets infected. That's why he's got the crazy thing on his arm. Yep. That's why he's got the blade. And as that infection spreads throughout your body, you get more powerful and you gain more abilities.
It does start really slow as a result of that. I think in this game it actually would have benefited by the classic thing where you start with all your powers and lose them. As much as I hate that in most games, this at least would have done a good job of giving you a taste of what you'll be building to. The more powers you get and the more robust the combat becomes, then things get interesting and then actually really like the game by the end. Whereas at the beginning I was kind of like, this is really
like the progression at the beginning of the game. The game doesn't have blind fire, which is weird, and you can't hold down. I was playing on PS3, but you can't hold down the X button to run, then snap into a cover, then leap over the cover, then move to the next thing. Everyone is a different, separate, discrete button press, and that was a little bit strange at first. But I was still happy with the fact that the cover worked, the shooting worked, and then by the time I got the glaive, I was like, okay, well this is new. And then very shortly afterwards, I got a new glaive power, and I was like, okay, well this is new. And then very shortly afterwards, I got a new power, and I was like, all right, this is cool. Then they introduced the weapon upgrade systems. It comes in at a relatively consistent pace, and you always feel like you're getting something new.
First glaive power you get is the environmental stuff where you throw it into a fire, it becomes on fire, then you can throw it out the black goo that blocks half of the doors in the world, or throw it into electricity and use that, which affects enemies as well. That stuff's cool, and that's kind of ties into their very few puzzles they have, or guide the glaive using the aftertouch over a wall and hit a button.
The weapon up 6-axis Heavenly Sword?
Yeah.
Oh, it does use it?
It does use Heavenly Sword. Very similar. It's very close to what it was on Heavenly Sword.
Works the same with the analog stick too. I had no problem with that either.
They still managed to work in the Gears stuff even into the glaive though. Instead of in Gears you have to active reload, where you have to hit the bumper to you do more damage if you reload that way instead. And in Dark Sector you have the power throw, where if you hold down the throw button and let it go at a certain time in the meter, you'll do 4 times the damage, and that's when you chop off limbs more easily and chop guys in half and stuff.
I kind of love that timing aspect. It's the kind of the game within a game, just like the active reloading. And for me, every time I did it, it was kind of a little thrill.
I made sure that I learned the timing, so I can do it almost every time now. And what's great is if you have a DualShock, you can do it based on the vibration of the controller when you're not zooming in with the reticle. So you can still get the power shot as long as your timing is right when you don't hold down the L trigger to zoom.
I love how the glaive is used to if you're shooting from a balcony or something, you can use it to grab a weapon that an enemy dropped. It's great as kind of the Link, Zelda-esque boomerang that you can use to pick things up.
Later in the game too, they start hiding more kind of secret items a little bit. It'll be off in a corner that you can't necessarily walk to, but you can throw your glaive over there and grab it. After you upgrade your weapons,
and upgrading it's pretty satisfying when you do. You get some really powerful guns.
The upgrade powers, when you slot it onto the gun, it's there for good. There's a lot of things where it's you just kind of learn by doing it with the upgrading system. That's why it's kind of weird. It's also erratic.
Or Nick, you can read the manual and you would know this.
I could do that. But...
All right. I had the glaive, and then you have a hand weapon. I got that handheld shotgun.
Right.
And I would just kick ass up close, and then I had my rifle from when I had to do a long distance. And that worked great.
I was running around with this shotgun that I could fire very, very fast, almost semi-auto, with no scope, and that experience was very much like Resident Evil.
I would use a glaive when they're like medium distance away. As soon as they got within the radius, then I pull out the gun. You know, it worked out so great.
Right, because the beginning of early in the game when you start, it's mostly this kind of like go into cover and then combat, you know, soldiers that are firing at you with weapons.
Right.
So once, you know, you get to the point in the game where it's like weird creatures running at you and trying to attack you with melee, you know, melee weapons, then it's like it turns into a different game.
Boss battles. It seemed like they're getting hit, but if you weren't doing the actual trick, you could do that indefinitely.
You don't really know. You don't know you're hurting them until they're dead, or
and it
like
really annoyed me
until
because a lot of times I kind of got stuck in that I kept almost infinitely in a loop, just kind of hitting a guy, dodging, hitting, you know, and he wasn't getting hurt, but he looked like he was. Maybe if we even put a life bar on it, that'll help just like for indication reasons, you know? I just want to know, you know, I'm actually making progress.
It has its own engine and not Unreal Engine, and it actually runs more smoothly than anything I've seen on Unreal Engine. There's no weird like texture pop in, it's just like buttery smooth, looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
But they still have like the Gears aesthetic down pat.
There's a lot of like kind of random sci-fi. The stages feel a little generic. The enemies feel a little generic.
The character and some of the boss designs are really cool, like visually, and they just kind of fit in with their mechanics. But just the rest of it, like the kind of just general like aesthetic and the general blandness of the bad guys and environments are like literally you just could take like these are outtakes from Gears. Let's take this little like plaza that I'm gonna fight a bunch of guys and dump it in Dark Sector.
When you play a game like Eco, you've got the space is very well defined. Like you get a sense as you go through it that it is this one cohesive castle, and you're traveling all around these different parts of it. And in this game, it's just like a bunch of areas blended together with load screens, and I don't really feel like I don't know where I am. I don't have a good feel for that space.
I think it says something that we keep going back to talking about how we enjoy the combat, how we do it, because like we kind of light up at those points, because like that's the fun part, you know. And I could keep doing that like in generic levels, but it's not wrong to want more.
While playing this game, one of my friends hadn't played Gears yet, and so he wanted to play a little co-op. So we hopped in, played some Gears, and then went back to Dark Sector right afterwards.
How'd that compare?
It held up surprisingly well, I must say.
Kidding.
Yeah. I mean, aside from the fact that, like I say, you're losing co-op, it's a big loss.
Of course.
But single player is amped up in the places that I feel appropriate, so that it still turns into a fulfilling experience. I felt it nailed this kind of RE4 sort of vibe pretty well.
Yeah.
It nailed this like Gears thing. It has the glaive. There were enough new kind of pieces, and the best of some of the things that we played recently, all kind of mashed into one game. Is Gears better? Yeah, but I would recommend anyone who likes Gears to check it out, give it a look.
Kill some time till November.